GoPro isn't just a memorable brand name, it represents one of the most striking success-to-struggle stories in modern business history. The inaugural GoPro Hero made its public debut at a San Diego industry exhibition in September 2004, marking the location of its very first transaction, a modest order of merely 100 units from a distributor based in Japan. Since that initial moment, the journey has been remarkable. Most people recognize that GoPro essentially created and dominated the action camera space for individuals wanting to document themselves while surfing, skiing, racing, or engaging in similar activities. It rapidly established itself as the leading and most convenient choice in this category. These cameras are compact, featherweight, resilient, and come with all the necessary attachments for virtually any application. Action cameras have become interchangeable with the GoPro brand itself, even when the device is manufactured by competitors, much like how people refer to any facial tissue as a Kleenex regardless of whether Puffs produces it. This represents perhaps the ultimate achievement within a particular industry sector. This makes it somewhat startling to discover that the GoPro Corporation has been facing difficulties for quite some time. The company reached its zenith around 2014 to 2015, depending on your measurement criteria. While numerous graphs could illustrate the subsequent downturn, one metric captures it most dramatically: the share price. In June 2014, GoPro executed a triumphant initial public offering, making its shares available to investors for the first time. Several months afterward, in September, the company achieved its maximum valuation exceeding $11 billion. Notably, this occurred precisely 1 decade after those initial 100 cameras were sold, quite extraordinary to advance from nearly zero to an $11 billion valuation within 10 years. That's an average increase of over $1 billion annually. However, throughout the subsequent decade, that $11 billion has diminished to approximately $200 million. The company has shed over 98% of its worth, meaning an investment of $100 at the most unfortunate moment a decade ago would be worth less than $2 today. Significant events have clearly transpired, so this video will attempt to chronicle the ascent and descent of GoPro. Quick favor, if you found this video interesting, subscribing helps us cover more rise and fall stories like this. Kindly do please. The founder's journey. Nick Woodman has been the central figure throughout the company's history. He essentially created the GoPro camera, established the business around it, and remains its CEO today. Following his college graduation in the late 1990s, he sought to launch his own venture. His initial endeavor was a website named empowerall.com, selling electronic goods, but it struggled to attract customers and eventually closed. His second attempt involved an online gaming platform, where he secured nearly $4 million from external backers. But this coincided with a massive dot-com crash. When that bubble exploded, the business collapsed, and those investors forfeited their capital. This second failure proved especially demoralizing, prompting him to leave the country for a 5-month surfing expedition in Australia. This detail is crucial. Nick Woodman has always been a passionate surfer. In fact, access to the ocean and quality waves significantly influenced his choice to attend college in San Diego, demonstrating his dedication to the sport when it shaped his educational decisions. This exemplifies someone transforming their enthusiasm into a profession. The initial concept. At that time, capturing a quality photograph of yourself while surfing was practically impossible. It was almost comedic among the surfing community that only elite athletes obtained impressive shots because they had dedicated photographers documenting their activities. The best option for recreational surfers was purchasing those disposable Kodak cameras and attempting to somehow secure them to their wrists. This became Woodman's original concept, engineering a specialized strap, enabling surfers to attach cameras to their wrists securely, preventing detachment or excessive movement, unlike typical improvised solutions. Additionally, he envisioned the camera being lightweight and enclosed in a protective housing. The concept expanded from there, and you can understand the name's origin. It suggested you were going pro by capturing such excellent self-documentation. Building the business. Upon returning home, he admirably dedicated nearly 2 years to transforming the concept into reality. He states his previous business collapse frightened him sufficiently that he channeled that fear into motivation, working extraordinarily hard to prevent another failure. He relocated to his parents' residence and devoted himself to the project 7 days, weekly, for 20 hours daily. That prior experience also made him reluctant to accept external funding, having previously lost $4 million of others' investments. Consequently, for the initial years, the operation was entirely financed through his personal reserves combined with parental loans. He functioned as a one-person operation: designer, engineer, salesperson, and everything else. Product evolution. The first GoPro employed a modified 35mm camera from an obscure Chinese manufacturer, selected for affordability. He abandoned this 2 years later when GoPro unveiled their inaugural digital camera. It could only record 10 seconds of footage initially, but improved with the subsequent year's release, with continuous enhancements in each new version. Woodman contacted surf retailers attempting to convince them to stock his camera. He regularly attended industry exhibitions and even made multiple appearances on QVC, the shopping network, to promote it through television. A significant breakthrough occurred when outdoor retailer REI agreed to carry it on their shelves, with an even larger victory when Best Buy agreed in 2012. Explosive growth. That same year, Woodman sold 8.88% of the company for $200 million, establishing a valuation of $2.25 billion, and officially making him a billionaire at age 37. It became among the fastest expanding companies, with revenue exceeding $1 billion by 2014 and earnings climbing annually. Worth noting, revenue continued increasing, reaching its peak in 2015, but earnings had already begun declining before rapidly converting to losses. This trajectory clearly wasn't what GoPro anticipated. 3 key problems: operational inefficiency. Everything became considerably less efficient following the IPO. Confidence regarding GoPro was overflowing among founder Nick Woodman and others during the launch of this major consumer electronics public offering in over 10 years. It was such a rapidly growing enterprise, surpassing expectations in nearly everything attempted up to that moment. Speculation suggests many investors and executives began believing the possibilities were unlimited and failure was impossible. According to Nick Woodman, we transitioned from being thrifty and scrappy and efficient and wildly innovative to being bloated and what's the opposite of thrifty. Within 18 months of that IPO, they more than doubled their workforce to 1,600 employees. This has since been followed by numerous layoff rounds. They likely expanded beyond appropriate levels seemingly every year, bringing major news stories about GoPro implementing substantial reductions, which isn't the narrative you want. In 2015, Nick Woodman obtained this $285 million stock compensation package that apparently made him the nation's highest paid CEO. That doesn't suggest efficiency. Yet just several years later, reports indicated his salary was reduced entirely to $1. These represent extreme fluctuations. Failed expansion attempts. Returning to my list, which I've arranged in order of increasing impact. Inefficiency was certainly a factor, but an even larger issue would be their unsuccessful ventures. I recognize that's somewhat vague, but GoPro has squandered considerable resources attempting to evolve beyond merely being a camera manufacturer, yet they've made no meaningful progress. Anyone viewing this would likely still identify GoPro as a camera company and probably struggle to name anything else they associate with the brand. Entertainment division. At one stage, they attempted heavy involvement with entertainment. Countless popular videos on YouTube and additional social platforms have been filmed with GoPros. This was significant to their initial success and possibly your first introduction to them. It seemed logical enough to leverage their audience and invest in original programming. They recruited the former director of Hulu Originals and an HBO sports executive, developed numerous TV series, but none appeared profitable or promising, so they abandoned it and closed the entire division in 2016. Drone failure. Another unsuccessful endeavor for GoPro was manufacturing drones. Again, this was intended as a logical method for them to expand beyond just camera production, but ultimately proved an embarrassing waste of resources and time. Briefly, they created a drone called the Karma that was highly anticipated and repeatedly delayed before finally launching in October 2016. However, merely weeks after release, it was completely recalled. Apparently, They didn't test it adequately. It had power failures for some users where units shut down mid-flight and plummeted from the sky. All 2,500 units were recalled, and it wasn't relaunched until after the holiday shopping season. You can recognize the problem with that timing. Then after another holiday season, it became evident the Karma drone wasn't a major new product they'd hoped for, and it was discontinued. Limited market. To be clear, there are certainly various situations where someone might utilize a GoPro, but primarily they're best suited for recording action sports. They were invented to satisfy that precise requirement, and over the years have demonstrated they can fulfill it. However, for most people, for most alternative purposes, we'll probably use our smartphones instead. Remember, GoPro predates the iPhone, so throughout its existence, it's been competing with smartphones and not exactly prevailing. In 2016, when everything was collapsing, Nick Woodman stated he felt a major error was failing to coordinate GoPro with the smartphone revolution. He essentially suggested they should have collaborated with smartphones rather than competing against them. The fundamental issue is that GoPro remains confined to the narrow action camera market. It's an adequate market, but where else can they advance with it? That's when you must pause and question whether a company primarily manufacturing those cameras can realistically be worth $11 billion. Current reality. I believe investors have lost faith in GoPro's capability to expand upon their original idea and develop into something larger. I dislike adding to the criticism, but even examining specifically those cameras, they're not as commanding as they once were. Anyone who's researched purchasing one recently has likely encountered appealing alternatives, some at reduced prices. So even regarding what they do best, they've lost some ground. Revenue has varied somewhat, but has never approached their previous heights, and without substantial changes, it seems improbable to occur again soon. What are your thoughts on the rise and fall of GoPro? To me, it appears the company possessed such substantial momentum and potential that perhaps people became slightly overzealous. In reality, it probably shouldn't have been an $11 billion company, but simultaneously, did it truly deserve to lose so much of its value? I'm curious about your perspective on that. Also, do you own a GoPro? What's your opinion of it, and what do you use it for? Is it for one of the more obvious applications? Or perhaps you've discovered an interesting use most people wouldn't consider? And finally, what are your thoughts on Nick Woodman and the company he established? I imagine there might be some divided opinions there. Share any other thoughts about GoPro in the comments. I'd appreciate hearing your perspective. Thank you for watching.